Postgame Show. Sherrod Blakely at the Garden, John Zannis, and we've got the other knuckleheads joining us from the Garden in a little bit. Bobby and Josue. Bobby might be hopping in and out doing some postgame press conferences. It's going to be a short Sunday show because this was an exhibition game against the Wizards, and it's fine. It's good. This was a get-right game for the Celtics, Starters played. You had a couple shaky post-Rob outings with Miami loss and then a less-than-perfect game against Indiana, and you're playing a team here without two of its better scorers, but a team that did beat the Mavericks by 30 points their last time out. So the Celtics drilled them, 40-plus point win. So definitely stuff to feel good about here.
Yeah, and that's really all you wanted to do if you're the Celtics. Come in here, get the win. Nobody gets hurt. Move on. That's all.
And that's what happened. And, again, these are really hard to gauge sort of victories, because you're going to win this game. And the Celtics, defensively, I don't think we're that crisp to start out the game. They gave up, 50+% shooting to the Wizards in that first half. And then just, they put their foot on the gas there in the third quarter, blew the game open, and that was that. And that's really all they had to do today.
Yeah, and I, we're gonna get the elephant in the room in this game out the way right off the jump, and that is Jaylen freaking Brown. I mean, did he have somewhere to be by halftime? Because the way he came out, it was just like, let me just get me a quick 11 points in like 4 minutes, and then just kind of kick back and relax and let the rest of these guys take over. He was incredibly impactful from the outset, and I thought that really set the tone for the kind of game that they were going to play. This was a game where the Celtics went in. It felt as though we're going to outscore these guys. We're just going to have one of those nights where we're just knocking down all the shots, because I think they're starting to sense that defensively they're not going to be where they were with Rob. So you're going to have to really sharpen your offensive game a little bit in order to make sure that your defense is going to take a slight step back, but your offense needs to be significantly better if you're going to keep on winning, keep on rolling over teams.
Yeah, and so I think you're right there, and they talked about it last game for sure. And I know Marcus had some comments, that they are still playing like a team that has Rob there as a safety net, or at least they did for a couple of games, and they have to unlearn that, but then they get to hopefully learn it again. Because, Rob, who talked the other day, was great to see the guy smiling, goofy, fun.
He seemed happy as hell.
Anyone who hasn't watched it, go to CLNS Media, watch the full press conference. It's just going to make you feel good, okay?
Yeah.
And obviously you can catch all our press conferences there all the time. But he was just in a good mood, and he was great, and, just positive vibes, and he'll be back. And people asking questions, are you going to be the same guy? He's like, shit, yeah,
that was me.
Yeah, that was your question?
Yeah.
That was a funny answer.
And he goes, nah. He's like, any concern you won't be the same? He's like, nah, shit, I'm going to be fine. And so that was very heartening, but they're still learning. We'll get to Rob in a little bit. Welcome, Josue, too. They're still learning how to play without him back there. And that they're there. The other downside is, I know Bobby wrote about Tice as well. Tice takes on a totally different role in this offense. And what's happening is he's going to be catching the ball 10, 15 feet away from the basket sometimes. And teams are going to dare him to shoot. And they did that a little bit today. And he's got to be able to knock those down. That's the aspect of his game he has to bring that Rob doesn't give you, which is when he's got that open look, he's got to take it. He's got to knock it down with consistency. It's something I'm not sure he's going to do or he's been able to do. So that's something you got to learn to deal with. But you're right, everybody else can operate the way they've been operating here, and Jaylen was awesome. That stuff, those pull-ups on the pick there on the screen.
Yeah.
I'm shocked when it doesn't go in at this point. He just needs this much daylight off of those screens, and he's knocking those down. Bobby, first impressions on the game. We'll start with you, and then Josue, since you guys are just jumping in.
It starts with Brown, and it's so easy to forget that they didn't have him in the playoffs last year and down the stretch. So we haven't really seen this team in playoff mode with Brown playing at this level since the bubble, and he was pretty great in the bubble. Drove them through that Toronto series, and he was great in the Philly one too. This is a guy I think who's starting to really get comfortable with a high volume of shots, a big role in the offense. And to your point, John, about the work he did on the dribble here, I feel like we haven't seen him be this amazing on the ball in a long time.
Not at all. I love that.
A lot of his success lately has been as a finisher. ton of initiating in this one and good passing too. Like we haven't seen that from him in a couple months now, as other guys have sort of stepped into that role. He's just starting to get comfortable, and I think he knows his role. Tatum knows his role. They're both scoring 25 pretty much, it feels like, showing up. And that, more than anything, I think makes you encouraged that against the Chicago, against the Toronto, against those type of teams, that it looks like they're going to be lined up here with – you're the odds-on favorite against those groups just because of those two and what this offense is able to do right now. There's still big defensive questions, as you guys said. Still looks like a sloppy effort on that end of the ball, and I don't really even think they have an identity right now on that end. But they can get there. They have a little bit of time. They have a little bit of room for error in the first-round series, I would think. But time is thin on that end.
Left the comment up here. I do think that, like, the Harden stuff there, not quite, but he is setting people up off of those screens and those step backs with those threes in a way that's been super impressive right now. So he adds that to his catch and shoot sort of pull up, game that he's got, the catch and shoot game on the three as well, when the ball swings to him. And that's just that's just really, really hard to contend with, especially considering he's the guy on this team that goes downhill the most. So you always have to have that in the back of your mind. And when he's doing this, like he was doing it today, it's just, again, we go back to shades of early last year. Jaylen Brown looked like one of the most unstoppable players, not just on the team, but in the NBA.
You know what else too, John? I like the turnaround fadeaway. I think that's been a part of his offense that's sort of like he's sharpened that a lot. Like I remember it was like feeling like most of the time you weren't quite sure if it was going to go in, but now I mean he's almost automatic with that. And he's kind of come out with these first quarter, offensive outbursts that I think, or you want to hope that it's going to be consistent, throughout. And, I joked around with Bobby. I'm like, man, this game is not going to be a close one in the fourth quarter, but if it was, I still think Jaylen gets 32. But you know what? In that third quarter, Bobby, I feel like if this game was close, he probably would have hit 40. Like he was that much in his bag. And I don't know if we talked about it a lot this year, but I don't know if that's just a matter of him just wanting to not take away too much from Tatum or just wanting to just, add to the flow of the offense instead of being the go-to guy in the fourth quarter. But he tends to do that. I just want to see what happens in these next 3 games on the road. I think this is great for the Celtics' defense to kind of regroup and, find themselves, so to speak. Kind of what Bobby was talking about as, they're trying to bridge the gap between now and when Robert Williams comes back. So that's something to keep an eye on throughout this 3-game stretch, throughout those on the road, see how they perform. But another thing I also wanted to point out is Tatum's overall game offensively. Man, he's really gone along. He's come a long way with this passing game. I feel like he knows when to set people up. He knows where particular players like the ball, those bounce passes, those nice looks. He's just seeing everything so clearly right now, it seems like, on offense. And I think it's been huge for the Celtics and obviously for Tatum, who's just sharpening that part of his game, just his overall passing ability right now.
I don't disagree at all with the Tatum.
I thought I lost you guys. What the heck, man?
It's totally. I was checking on something.
I was about to freak out and be like, "What?"
It's not a final yet. I was looking at it. Celtics are going to be the 2 seed soon. We'll talk.
Yeah,
about that in a minute.
It's about 30 seconds left in that Milwaukee game. No, it's not close. Dallas says that. It's just a matter
close to over.
No. I mean, close to over, right? Close to official, right?
Yeah. So they'll be the number 2.
So I'm looking up right now. I want to spend some time on it because we've spent a lot of time debating this. But Celtics are about to ascend. Huh?
No, the guy said too much Jaylen talk. That's funny.
I know, way too much Jaylen talk. I don't know what we're doing. We are also struggling to find our identity right now.
This is John after Rob. Losing Rob. It's been tough.
I don't know what to do after Rob. I'm talking about Jaylen Brown having an awesome game. I'm.
What the hell is going on?
I mean, everything right now. Look, everything right now is big picture. It's not about the game. So again, we're not looking at. You're not looking at anything here. You're looking to make sure this is. The pageant is about to begin. You want to make sure there's no blemishes right now, it's almost your wedding day. You got to fit into that dress. Everything's got to be perfect. Okay. So you're looking for perfection right now. Okay. So you're going to be looking around at this team and see, okay, what do they need? Where do they need to improve? How are they going to stack up against things? Who's the best opponent? How do you want to play it? So the Tice thing and the post Rob stuff, I want to wait on Bobby here. Bobby wrote something where he's like, they'll be okay. There's moments here in this. I'm pretty nervous with Tice in that starting lineup in the playoffs. I really have to tell you. And it's not that he's bad. I thought he did a very good job in his backup role. I think this is a big burden to put on him. and a massive drop over what you had. And again, you lose someone of Rob's caliber, there's going to be a drop. I don't know. I think it works better. I mean, Ime said it before the game. It's going to be matchup dependent between who plays between him and Grant. And that's the right approach, I think, for sure.
Right.
You could even see Derek White theoretically, possibly slide in there again, depending on the matchup.
Yeah.
If
and
you
then slide Tatum over to 4.
If you
5.
did play Brooklyn, you could probably get away with not having, not having a second big, and you could go smaller there because you're not really worried about them as much. But there's other teams where you have no choice. So it is interesting right now.
Well, the thing that I always come back to is when a backup replaces an injured player in the starting lineup, at some point you're going to be reminded as to why they're backup. At some point, there's something that's going to happen that you're going to be like, oh, that's right, he's filling in for X, Y, Z. But the point that you made earlier, John, about Tyson having those like short 10, 15-foot shots that are going to be there, Tatum, Brown, Al Horford, they have got to convince Tice to take those shots because I think his immediate impulse is just swing the ball. But the only way he's going to be able to really make an impact at that position is play to what his strengths are, and he can knock that shot down. It's not a question of ability; it's about whether he is going to take it or not, and he has to become confident and comfortable doing that. And that's only going to happen if the Tatums, the Browns, the Al Horfords of the world empower him to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happened already. I mean, early in the game, maybe right out of the gate, I think the first 2 shots were Tice, and they were wide open, and he missed them. And then a third time, a ball swung to him, and he had a wide open look, and he's like, I can't shoot another and miss 3 to start the game. So he swung it. So you have to just accept that that's a shot I have to take. But the reality is it's a results-driven business. It's a shot you have to make. So that's what's going to happen with him. And I mean, throughout the game, Porzingis was playing off him with no respect at all. So, I mean, he's going to have to knock those down. That's going to be a super important thing. I know, in previous iterations, previous stints here, when he was here with them before, he could stretch it out and he would shoot some threes. I thought kind of maybe became too reliant on it, but it was something you had to respect. Teams have to be able to respect that he's going to knock that down a little bit. What do you guys think with him defensively right now?
Defensively, I mean, he's not going to be what Rob was, but he's not a bad fill-in right now for this team, I think. The fouls is always something that we always used to be worried about, but he's improved since he's come back to Boston, right? Or at least in the last couple of weeks. So I think that's a plus, if you're the Celtics. But, I mean, I think offensively, though, that's the part where opposing teams are going to try to expose him a bit. And that's just kind of what we saw, especially in this team that has Porzingis out there. He's like, I'm not going out there to guard this guy. Like, this isn't exactly, he's not one of those top tier 3-point shooting bigs. So that's exactly what other teams are going to do as well, especially in the postseason. So he's shown confidence before, but I just think out of the gate, first quarter, if that look is there, he's got to be much more comfortable and taking those shots and making them, quite frankly. Between him and Al Horford will also get those looks as well. But you feel more confident with Al taking them as opposed to Tice. But Tice has improved his game from that aspect, though, because I remember before he was constantly stepping into it and settling for the long 2. So he's come a long way from the days of doing that. But I think defensively, I'm more concerned about his offense in the starting lineup, as opposed to his defense. I think he's able to adapt naturally in the front court when he's playing defense, alongside Al Horford and alongside Tatum. He's comfortable. He's much more comfortable on that end.
Yeah, again, we're talking about survival here. We're not talking about perfection.
Right.
You're talking about survival.
This is one round.
Is it enough to survive that round? That's all you're talking. Because again, you're starting to feel good just listening to Rob that other day. You're starting to feel good about a return. And I mean, you're not going to know it until you see it, but just to listen to him, and again, how's he going to know? You're confident. I mean, and again, to talk about Rob, he said he was in so much pain, he was afraid to tell somebody about it, and he was like, oh man, I screwed something up bad. And he said the day after his surgery, he'd already felt better and he started his rehab and he feels good. And again, we don't know, but you're starting to feel that it is possible. Not only you get him back, but you get a version of him back that isn't that far off than what you saw before, which means you can it's there, you just got to get there. And so that's there's no other story with the Celtics, right? I know everyone wants to just celebrate Jaylen Brown's 30 points. There is no story outside of the Celtics right now, other than can they survive round 1 without Rob? It's the only thing that matters, because then anything beyond that is absolutely on the table if they get to round 2. That's it. Everything is on the table round 2 and on if you get Rob back and he's healthy.
Yeah, and I'm confident that they can survive and thrive with Tice out there, because again, he gives you a dimension that Rob doesn't from the standpoint of what he does offensively. He doesn't play above the rim as well as Time Lord does, obviously, but he can still do that. There are things that he does that can accentuate this offense in a way that gives them a different look and makes them, frankly, a little bit more of a threat as they move along in the playoffs. Because now, all of a sudden, you've got another thing that you've got to prepare for with their different combinations. But make no mistake about it, this team is not going to go nearly as deep as they can if they don't get Rob back sooner rather than later. He is that important. And when just watching them play against this Washington team, there were so many moments where you could see where Washington would get a good shot at the rim, or they would get a basket that goes down that damn well Rob would have either made them reconsider taking that shot, or that shot would have got pinned on the glass and it would have started to break the other way. Now, obviously, the Celtics won big, and that's great, but there's no way you can undervalue the importance of Rob Williams to this team going far, because he really has become that wild card in their quest to bring home Banner 18. There's no way they can have a legitimate shot at that if they don't get Rob back to close to the Rob that we saw before the injury.
What if they play the Nets?
I'm agreeing with this comment. I'm more concerned with the defense than the offense, honestly, because there are games where Rob, yes, the gravity is there, Josue, and sometimes you've always got that safety valve option with the lob. It's the defense right now. They're giving up 50% shooting to mediocre teams right now because that deterrent isn't there, and they get used to it. Think about it. All you have to do, if you just switch and make it hard and keep people out and make it so that they just can't get to where they want to go by just driving them bananas on the perimeter, running around and chasing them, which is what they're very good at doing, and then they get to they get anywhere near the lane, the human eraser is there, you get, it's not a crutch that he makes up. I think some people are talking about Rob making up for mistakes. I don't think he makes up for mistakes. I think you planned for that. This is how this defense came together. They built it with this guy in mind, which was let him roam all over the place and just make plays because he's that freaking good at it. So I think that's the huge difference here is they were rubbing teams out with their defense. They'd frustrate those teams so bad that they would give up by the third quarter because it was just there was nothing to be had, and that dynamic changes a lot. So I think that's what worries me the most. The reason I mentioned the offense is I think that's how he can counteract it, is to be a little bit more active offensively, and to give you things out there that Rob may not give you in order to kind of like I said, counteract some of the things that obviously he can't give you. It's not his fault. There's really no human beings on the planet like Rob. So it's asking a lot. There's just not a lot of people who do that.
That's a John quote if I ever heard one. Jesus.
No, it seems at times when you watch them play, it's almost as if they're funneling guys to Rob. And I think about that more because I think about plays where Rob will come out of nowhere and block a shot, and he won't just block it. He'll block it into the hands of a teammate who then starts to break.
Yeah.
That happens way too damn often for it just to be happenstance. So they're and that's what the really, to me, the savant type defenders are able to do. They're doing shit like that they don't even think and realize they're doing. They're just doing it. And when you look back at it and you see all the things that come to place or come to make that happen, you're just like, damn, that was like genius. And when you don't have a guy like that around, for whether it's a game or two or 5 or 10 or whatever, you have to figure out a way to make up for that. And I think for Daniel Tice, he's not going to be the defender that Rob is. So if you can't be that guy, what can you do to help compensate for what you lack? And for me, I think it's his scoring. He's got to be the best version of himself, that he can be.
I got Brad Stevens in my mind, though.
Yeah. Oh, we lost Sherrod. Sherrod, you muted by accident. Yeah.
There you go. But make sure that he's able to contribute at a higher level offensively, because that's, to me, what he can give that's unique and different from what Rob does.
Hey, everyone, this comment here, raise your hand if you thought at the beginning of the season Rob looked slow and not in shape, and then all of a sudden became really, really good, and all of a sudden became athletic. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Joey. Yes. In the beginning of the season, that's what he was. And then he became
First
really,
couple
really
weeks.
athletic. First few weeks, the entire
Yeah.
preseason, when we talked about it, he was really, really, really,
He
really,
was
really
eating good last summer.
gravity
That's
bound.
for
Yeah.
sure.
He ate well.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. And then he didn't. And then when he changed, we talked about it. That's how this works. We react to the things we see, not the things we want to have happen. He was not the same guy. We've talked about this even with his return. If he returns and he's not that physical freak, that also will be an adjustment because the Celtics can't rely on him to do all of that stuff. That human eraser stuff and the lob threat did not exist the first month of the season. It took a little while for Rob to play himself into shape. And as soon as he did, and again, not entirely, but as soon as he did, he started doing Rob things. And then when they started playing him off the ball is where things obviously really unlocked there on that defense, which was great.
And that, to me, that's really the key to what this team has done defensively is just that subtle but so necessary adjustment to make Rob essentially a free safety back there.
Yep.
Once they did that, everything changed. One simple adjustment was maybe the most important adjustment to this team, even being in the conversation of being one of the top tier teams in the NBA. No question about it.
Right. It's the difference, right?
Yeah. That's the defense.
Yeah, it's the difference. Yeah. I mean, that's what made them the best defense in the NBA by a mile. Like, and it was Rob, essentially, right? That's the biggest reason why I don't necessarily love the Celtics' chances in the first round matchup against the Nets. Like, I don't think the Nets seeing that defense again, if that's the same one that we've seen the last couple of months with Rob in the middle, I love their chances against the Brooklyn Nets. But without him in there, I just think that intimidation against guys like Kyrie, who could obviously finish at the rim, and guys like Durant who get going, like that constant pressure, that constant switching. If you don't have that in there, that's probably a 7-game series. If we're being honest, do the Celtics win that? Maybe. I still like their chances, but I think not having Rob in there changes things, man.
Josue, Brooklyn ain't going 7 games with nobody. They're not good enough.
So that's
they're the worst defensive teams in the NBA right now. If you really pay attention to them, I mean, everyone that plays against them has a gold-plated easy pass to the lane. There's no resistance at all that they're giving up, and so for them, they're going to need Durant and Kyrie to be at the top of their games every single game. And even when Kyrie put a double nickel piece on there and caught that L. When does Durant give you 55 points and lose? Does not happen.
Yeah,
their defense, and it's not because
86 points between Kyrie and Durant, and they lose. They've got problems.
They can't defend, and Steve Nash can't coach. I mean, I hate to be the elephant in the room. He can't get it.
So here's the fear.
You're right. Been thinking that about Nash, though.
No, right. But you're right on all of it. They get all of that from those two guys. They have no bench depth. They're not getting help from any other players on that team. Simmons is nowhere near playing, and Nash right now looks totally friggin'
Simmons
lost.
Is not even. Yeah.
Simmons isn't even in the conversation. But the fear is. The Celtics or a team gets nervous, gets into the playoffs, starts to play a little tighter on offense, relies on ISOs, threes aren't falling, blah, blah, blah. And you can't exploit that crap defense that the Nets play. And that you have those guys on the other side that your defense can't stop, particularly a weakened defense like the Celtics have until Rob returns, which is why I don't love it in the first round, because that's the one where it's like, oh, man. But you're right. It's hard to watch Brooklyn struggle against everybody.
I saw them play the Atlanta Hawks the other night, and
you keep looking at those box scores, and they're just like, how are they losing, or how did they, close in this game, right?
Guys are just making layups. I mean, it's not even about guys making tough plays and breaking guys down to get to the rim, past the defense. No, they're just literally blowing by guys, and they're so perimeter shot dependent on being successful. If Durant isn't making shots, if Kyrie isn't making jumpers, if Patty Mills isn't making jumpers, they're not going to be even competitive. And again, because their defense is so putrid, even when those guys are making shots, they can't win. I mean, there is no planet, there is no scenario that should ever exist where Kevin Durant gets you 55 points and you lose. It should never happen. Should never, especially if he's giving you 55 relatively efficient points. And that
was the first time it happened. Yeah.
And in that Atlanta game, they were pretty much in control of that thing from the jump. There wasn't a point where you felt as though Brooklyn was like significantly swinging the momentum in their favor. That should never happen when you're one of the all-time greats has it going like that. And that's Brooklyn. That's a 6-game series. Definitely.
You think so?
I just think this is an emotional series, though, you know, between Kyrie and Durant and just wanting to prove everybody wrong against Boston. Look, I still like the Celtics' chances. I would still predict the Celtics to come out of that series victorious, but it could go the distance. It could. I mean, I just this Celtics defense right now is giving up way too many points, and I just don't feel all that comfortable or over the top confident rather that, you know, up against those guys in the best of 7 series, man. If one of those guys get hot, if he's dropping 55 points in a playoff game, you know, it's going to be tough. I mean, look, if the Celtics were to lose against the Brooklyn Nets in the first round matchup without Rob, then they don't deserve to go as far in the playoffs, right? They don't deserve to reach
but they do, though. That's the thing. I think it's bad luck. I think they absolutely do, fully healthy, deserve a lot. But this is what happens in the playoffs.
Fully healthy.
It happens all over the place. You lose a guy for a couple of games, and that's it. And you go from making it to the finals or not if it didn't happen. So again, they are a mortal team without Rob. They were borderline unbeatable with him. They may find something in those last 3 games with this unit right now that gets them back to it, and your confidence is sky high. But they are definitely closer to the pack without Rob than they were with him, which was they were a level above. They were clearly a level up on any team they would play in the first round, including Brooklyn. Not even close.
This is how I look at it. A couple things. First of all, Brooklyn, I do think will be personal for them. For the Celtics, it's going to be transactional. This is just another team that we have to deal with to get to where we want to get to. It's not personal. We don't want to crush you, Kyrie, but we're going to have to get to the next round. That is going to give them, I think, a much more level-headed approach to handling this. And the other thing, too, is that if you're the Celtics, you really don't care who you play because to me, I think the Celtics are at a point where they have a level of irrational confidence that no team that stands in their way is going to stop them.
Right.
No team. And to John's point, to your point, John, you're spot on when you talk about one injury could literally mean the difference between a series success or failure. Look back at the Chicago Celtics series a couple years ago when Rondo was healthy, played the first 2 games in Boston. They won both of those games. Rondo gets hurt. Chicago doesn't win another game that entire series. Now, obviously, this is a much different situation, but the point is still the same, that one missing player could literally be the difference between winning or losing a series. I don't think that's the case here. I think that the Celtics still have more than enough talent to beat Brooklyn or whoever they face in the first round. And if we're being honest and real about it, Brooklyn may not even get out. They may not even get to the playoffs.
Yeah, they may not. But again,
because I'm gonna tell you, if they got to play, listen, if they got to play Charlotte in that play-in game, that 9-10 game, I am taking Charlotte without hesitation, especially now that Gordon's back.
So that's the whole thing. Is I would within the kind of range of possibilities, I would be equally unsurprised if Brooklyn doesn't make it out of a 9-10 game as I would if they upended the Heat in round 1. Like, that's what I mean. Their range of possibilities is ridiculous because you have 2 of the best players on the planet with rings who can really light it up in the postseason against people who may not have the same level of postseason success and comfort right now. You really want to bet against Kevin Durant? Like, I don't. But also, if they friggin' laid an egg and were 1 and done in a 9-10 game, that also would not surprise me. Everyone is confusing likelihood with just kind of overall scariness. They are scary because of that. And it's always going to worry you because of those guys on the other side. Players win games, like the best players. You're always the team with the stars, tends to advance. Not always, but I mean, that's something you just can't get away from. Having Durant and Kyrie on that other side is always going to, even if it's not justified. I think that's the concern there is I don't want to face Kevin Durant. I really don't. I'd rather face anybody else.
Yeah.
You're still saying this after last night?
I am, Bobby, because I just don't think that matters.
I mean, it matters. They went up against a Hawks team that's just been dead all season, and you just saw Atlanta.
The Hawks, first of all, have been playing really, really well for the last 10 or 15 games. They're far from dead. They're playing outstanding right now.
I mean, they're the 10 seed in the conference.
I know, but they're playing great. They had their dip, and the Hawks are clearly on their way up, so they're playing well. I don't think that that's a fair assessment.
I guess. I mean, it's an offense that can light you up. So certainly,
yeah. And the Trae Young is playing like MVP basketball right now. You're getting a lot of, ridiculous performances out of people here elevating their teams. And that's what happens as you get closer, as you get into crunch time, as you get into that drive for the playoffs and into those the playoffs, those teams that have those scary players, which by the way, the Celtics also have too.
Switch.
They flip that switch. So the Celtics have them too. You feel good about that, but the other teams have them. They're scary. There's nothing easy here, especially when
nothing's going to be easy.
When your all-world defense has been neutered a little bit. Yeah,
I think not to throw shade at oh, sorry, they're taking down the banners right now. That really threw me off.
Okay.
Not to throw shade at Jalen, but I think Celtics have one of those guys. You talk about postseason performances. We can't flat out say Jalen is going to turn it up a notch, even though he's on pace to. He doesn't have that track record yet. But okay, I'm with you though. Celtics do have one guy, Tatum, and we saw what he did it last year. And look, I know it wasn't the most exciting series in the world, but I still give him credit for what he did in that Brooklyn Nets series, and of course what he did, the year before that in the bubble. He takes it up another notch. That's true. Tatum does, but just one. Celtics have one of those guys.
Well, they might have two, but we'll see.
They might have to.
No, and you just see, like, right now, teams playing the Nets, they're offensively, their eyes light up. I mean, you were just able to annihilate this team, and the record for Brooklyn now since Kyrie returned, even back to when he came back from not playing at all, isn't great. I mean, they have not integrated him well on that end. He's not playing good defense this year. Durant's a guy who's taken a step back on that end. And I know there's always the flip the switch thing, and like you talk about stars on that side, but when are you going to do it? I'm just waiting for them to enter that mode, take off. I thought there'd be opportunities here down the stretch of the season since Kyrie returned for them to rise out of the play-in tournament. Yeah. And then that last night officially set them up, not only in the upper tier, but in the tier of the play-in where if they lose one game against Atlanta or Charlotte, they're out.
Guys, it's just a fear factor. Right. Nobody, again, people have to be able to understand.
But I'm scared of DeRozan. I'm scared of Van Vliet too.
They're all scared. That's what I mean. It's like no one is saying the Celtics will lose to the Nets. They just say the Nets are scarier than, say, Charlotte or Atlanta or Cleveland. That's it. It's not that complicated to take. They're scarier. Because
I don't know. That's a little bit of a goalpost move. Like a week or two ago, we were saying you have to dodge the Nets at all costs.
Because they're the ones. They're the ones with the puncher's chance to knock you out, where I don't think those other teams can. That's it from the play-in universe. And I think other teams feel the same way. And I think if you asked a bunch of other fan bases or other teams, honestly, which of those bottom-feeding 7 through 10 teams are you trying to avoid? They'd all say Brooklyn. I don't think it's a big secret because of this reason. Doesn't mean they think their teams can't beat Brooklyn. I just think they'd feel more confident against the others. This isn't really that complicated.
It's not now, but a week ago we were like, Vegas had Brooklyn as the favorite in the East, which I just thought was insane.
And the other thing I want to talk about is you can't have a bunch of Celtics fans on Twitter and in this chat talking about how Robert Williams is the key to the defense and the defensive player of the year, and then also say, oh my God, you're thinking just because Rob is gone, the Celtics defense is shot. Pick a lane, guys. It's one or the other. He's either vitally important and the most impactful defensive player in the league, and therefore his loss greatly impacts your team, or he's not. You cannot diminish the loss of Robert Williams while also elevating him to defensive player of the year status. It's a massive loss. So there's concerns. There's reason to be concerned going into round one. You get through it and you get Rob back. There's less reason of concern. Nothing is controversial and nothing is negative. You've lost a guy who's arguably in the conversation for defensive player of the freaking year on your all-world defense. That's a big deal.
That's going to affect
acknowledge
your
defense, right? and right. Acknowledge it, and let's try to survive this first round. Okay, it's not that crazy a take. My goodness, people. Like, that's the reality.
No, Rob's loss is huge.
He's a massively important part of this team, guys. You
even listen to the way they're talking. Like, there's no hope of replacing him. Everybody's just got to rise their game to meet that level. I mean, no one's. Even Tice is saying like this.
I know people don't want to hear it. It's a huge deal, guys. I know you want to just like, oh, everything's going to be all right. It might, but it's a big, big deal. You have to survive. This first round is about survival, okay? So when we look at the teams, you're looking at which one is the most likely you can survive and get by. There's teams in here they might mop the floor with. I'm not entirely sure, but you're surveying the landscape, Bobby. Let's go through let's say they end up as the 2. in that 7-10 landscape, which team do you want to see and which team do you least want to see?
Cleveland right now, obviously.
Cleveland is the one you most want.
Yeah, if they can stay in with their
Yeah.
7 right now, they have a small lead over 8. If they can stay in that 7-8 matchup and win a freak game, if Mobley comes back or something, they're a little damaged to the point where you'd say you feel good about that matchup.
And so who do you least want to see? Again, we're talking 7-10 only.
It's close between Brooklyn and Atlanta right now.
Right. So, I mean, why is this so crazy? Like, it's dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean,
so this fans just want us to say, "Oh, don't be worried about the Nets.
They're gonna be fine. They're gonna win every game."
Yeah, I hope they beat the Nets. Right? I hope they.
So
get the
if
Nets
let's say they line up, against the Nets, how are you 3 guys like? Let's say, boom, week from now it's Nets Celtics. What are you picking in that series based on what each of those teams have now? No Rob for the entire series.
Celtics in 6.
Be close.
Which series?
Celtics Nets.
Celtics in 6.
Again, I'm going to take the Celtics as a favorite over everybty in the first round.
But
what I'm trying to say is it's a freaking roller coaster. Get ready for white knuckle time. I think against anybody. I think Charlotte would be the one you still would not be concerned with. Okay, they don't really have a center presence. You're not really worried there at all. I think if Charlotte somehow squeaked through and that's the team you end up playing in the first round, that's probably the softest team available right now. Cleveland worries you a little, but they're banged up too. So Cleveland, I think still, I would have the Celtics as strong favorites. I think everyone else from Chicago to Toronto on down, you're going to white knuckle it through that through round 1 without Rob. I think you are. I mean, Chicago, I think, is probably the worst case scenario. I know we're talking about fall into the 4 and take on Chicago. I think Chicago's probably the toughest team of that group in the bottom half of the bracket, 5 through 10.
Like I've said, if
because of their offensive firepower, I agree with
that one's tough.
That's
how
tough.
How you feeling about Sherrod? The whole playoff race.
To me, it doesn't matter who you face in the first round. You're not going to cakewalk through any team because you don't have Rob. So you just immediately embrace the fact that we are going to have to fight to get out of this first round. And that's fine because, again, that's why you play guys now so that they become comfortable. And hopefully when those moments arise where they have to play big minutes, they will rise to the occasion. But Brooklyn, look, again, the more I watch this team play now that they've got their big 2, the more I don't feel them. I'm not feeling the threat that I felt a week ago from them. I'm not feeling that this is a team that I should be like overly concerned about. I'm concerned because they have 2 of the top 5, top 10 scores in the game. That scares the crap out of me. But I also realize, and I've seen enough of this shit to know that 2 guys are not going to beat you. As great as those 2 guys are, they're not going to beat you in a best-of-7 series. They can carry a game or 2, but if you have the superior team, which I think the Celtics do, we're looking at maybe a 6, maybe a 7-game series, but I'm thinking more like 6 at the most.
6 and 7 game series counts as white knuckle when you're in a 2-7 matchup. You know, I mean, that means you're losing a couple of games. Yeah,
but they would not be your traditional number 7. Obviously, I mean, typically the number 7 seeds are teams that have significant flaws and holes in their lineup and are just happy to get through. And while Brooklyn does have that, they also have, as we've acknowledged, 2 of the best scores. But again, I'm not convinced they're going to even get out of the play-in tournament.
I'm the same way, Sherrod. And listen, I don't want to go too far with this, but Chicago has some guys back now that they can throw at Tatum and Brown. Toronto has a team full of guys that they can throw at Tatum and Brown. The Nets, from the day they put this team together, 0 defensive identity. They just don't play that end of the floor.
No, they're just trying to outscore you. They're just trying to outscore you.
Yeah, they're just trying to outscore you.
So I mean, you look at what the Wizards played that kind of defense here, and you just see how easy it comes for Tatum and Brown at this point.
Yeah. You guys want to talk about something else that's going to trigger people?
What's that?
Jaylen Brown scores 30 points in back-to-back games. Jaylen Brown scored 25 points in 9 straight games. Who gets the Brownie Award tonight? It's obviously Jaylen Brown, right? Right?
Of course.
Are we okay? Yeah. So typically, your best players after the game talk to the media, right?
No, I see what you're going with this now. I was like,
isn't that how it goes? Okay. How it's always gone?
Yeah. Not today.
Last 2 games, Jaylen Brown has been arguably the player of the game and has not spoken to the media. That's weird.
Yep. Sound the alarm.
You guys see it?
I'd sound the alarm.
That's a Brownie Award winner if I ever seen one.
But why would he?
I mean, just
would
take
he
it for what you will.
Why? Go ahead, John. Finish it.
No.
What's the reason? What's the reason why
these
Jalen
are simply
they wouldn't want
facts.
Jalen to speak?
Yeah.
Well, I like the fact that he's allowing his game to speak for him.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't speak for us.
Very
Here we go.
diplomatic, Sherrod.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about Jalen is this: no matter what he does, good or bad, it's always going to be like, but ... I like the fact that, again, he's playing with a level of aggression and being more efficient that they need. And my biggest issue with Jalen always isn't so much that he turns the ball over a lot. It's the unforced turnovers where he's just dribble, and he just loses the shit. Those are the ones that drive me nuts. The ones where he's trying to attack guys off the dribble and they either poke it free or he loses it or strip it, something like that. I don't mind those. And we're starting to see more of those type of turnovers than just the loosey-goosey ones. And that's great because that's a sign of growth, which I think obviously him and a lot of these guys need to show as you get closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure, Sherrod. This is exactly what you want to see.
Sherrod dodging the question like Jalen dodged the media today.
Well done.
This is what NBA...
That's some politician vibes right there, Sherrod. Well done.
Now let me go and kiss a few babies before we get off the call.
You should throw one of these in there.
Whatever, guys. Yeah.
This is what NBA stars do. They have 50 points. They skip media and they say, my game talk for itself. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Boom.
But look, this is what you want to see if you're a Celtics fan, right? This is what you want to see from Jalen because, it wasn't his fault, but he didn't have that taste of the playoffs last year. And I thought that was something that he's going to go into stride with this one, saying like, okay, now I'm here. I'm a featured player on this team in the postseason because last year he was a featured player and obviously he wasn't available. So this is great for him. I think he's in a good headspace right now because he's taking all that in and he's ready to prove everybody that look. Yeah, Jason Tatum's that guy. Yeah, he's an MVP candidate, but I'm about to light shit up too. Rob's out. I'm gonna take it up another notch. So we'll see.
It's been incredible, and like Sherrod,
those are facts, my dog. Those are facts.
Facts, dog.
That's right.
He's been incredible, and like Sherrod talked about, like I feel like we haven't even seen the extent of what they're going to be able to do with him in the postseason. Like they were holding some stuff back. It feels like in terms of how him and Tatum play off each other.
Sorry. Anyway,
But
go ahead.
yeah, it's great to see him find his sweet spot in this offense because I feel like a month ago we were talking about whether he could thrive in a quick decision offense and one where he's got to play make a little bit and just do all the different things we wondered whether he'd be able to do consistently coming into this year. And he had a bunch of bumps in the road from injuries to turnover, explosions, and rough shooting to really open this year. I mean, he was almost Tatum level in terms of the shooting slump he was in for nearly half the season there. So big time stuff. If we're going to talk Toronto, the best solution is just to keep rising. I mean, it goes right hand in hand with the standings thing we talk about. If they rise to
the best solution to what, Bobby?
To the question of getting over the border, like the Celtics, all we have is them.
He's not saying it either.
All we have is them basically no commenting. But
I've always said it.
Available.
Look, the evasiveness is ridiculous, but I've said it. I said it on Twitter. I said it on the show. I fully believe if Toronto is in play, everyone will do what they have to do if they haven't already.
Listen, it's an issue.
Yeah, that's what Al pretty much said, right?
I believe it's a dead issue, and that's the thing. It's just comical at this point. The dodging, which is just funny, and it's fine. Again, this is the world we live in, but them having to duck it for basically a week until they no longer have to play Toronto and it not to be an issue is going to be a problem because they're just going to. It's going to circle, for a little bit.
They're within their rights
I'm confident
to do that.
It's a non-issue because they're just going to. They've clearly indicated they're going to make sure whatever needs to get done before they have to go into Toronto. And again, keep in mind, the earliest they would play a game in Toronto, the earliest is the 20th or 21st. Okay. Which means you still have way more than 14 days necessary to be able to be clear if that's what you needed to be, if you happen to not have taken care of whatever you need to take care of now. So it's a non-issue, but they continue to make it one by dodging and not being part of it. And so they put it stays in the storylines, but I don't think it's a story.
And they're within their right to do that. Like
they're going to play. They're going to play. I don't think it's a concern. They're going to play. Everyone's going to play.
they're within their right to sit and pray and say, hopefully this isn't even a question if they don't play Toronto round one. And odds are it won't be. It's in the mix there, but there's a number of teams that they can play at this point. And the chat, I mean, who cares? If they get in a series and a player can't play road games, if it comes to that, you're going to sit here in a couple weeks and say, who cares? I don't think so. So it's a real question. It's a worthwhile thing to,
But because they've answered it, in the sense of the answer clearly says we'll be fine, which means if I'm not now, I will be then. So just leave it at that. And so be it. That's good enough. I believe nobody on this team, if right now they're not able to play in Toronto, that's going to be the case if and when they actually do have to play in Toronto. No one's tanking the season for this, which again, to their credit, is what Kyrie Irving essentially did. And he did it all year long. I'm not going to do it. The Celtics aren't going to be in that position. It hasn't affected them to this point, and they're not going to allow the season to go down in flames because this could happen. However, whatever, you get deeper into the playoffs, you never know who a round 2 opponent could be and this and that. So, I mean, things are going to get interesting and get dicey here.
Have a good one, man.
You have a chance to grab the 1 seed here. Why not do it? Like I've been saying it now, you're right there. You have these tiebreakers. You play the Bulls and the Bucks this week. I'm not saying like ramp these guys up to 40 minutes and avoid rest if some guys need rest. I know Tatum's knees bugging him. Horford, there's always a rest question there. So I could see that Milwaukee game on Thursday being a rest situation. But if you can do it, say Milwaukee rests that game too, go out there and do it. Like the 1 seed's there for the taking. The 2 seeds certainly now they're in it. I think the higher you can go, especially if, let's say, the expectation is that they're going to win round 1, no matter who they play. You want home court over Milwaukee round 2.
Sherrod, let me ask you. Ime said prior to the game he's looking to get Tatum a night off or just a night off of like a 15-minute game or something like that, where they don't have to stretch him out and play 30-plus minutes. And again, nice to have a blowout today because you can reduce those minutes. You got a nice little gap. And again, you've got those back-to-backs and then the final game in Memphis. Then a long-ass rest because of the play-in, which means you're going to have a 6-7 day layoff after your last game anyway. So there's really not a burnout factor. I do think, again, you're just trying to avoid calamity at this point. So in addition to rest and having fresh legs, you do want to, whatever. I think you're skipping one of those 2 back-to-backs between Chicago and Milwaukee. And so I don't think you're going for the 1 seed per se, because I just don't think it's in your best interest to play all of your players back-to-backs. But what do you want to see them do? You want to see them rise as far as they can, or just at this point, they pretty much have a first-round home court locked up. Do you want to see them? But if you get up to 2, then you've got 2 series at home, and that matters.
I want to see a rested Jason Tatum before the playoffs. I want to see a team that, when their core is together, minus Rob, for obvious reasons, are in a rhythm, are in a flow. I thought in this Washington game, this new starting 5 with Tice, it worked well. I thought it worked really well. My concern is Tatum. My concern is that he's having some soreness now. My concern is that will linger. I need to do whatever I can to make sure that does not become a playoff problem. And so, to me, you're right. The back-to-back games, there's no way in hell he's playing in both of those games. If I were Ime, I would probably sit him for the Chicago game. And I say that only because you're more likely to see Chicago in the first round than you are to see Milwaukee. So Chicago, to me, is the game where you want them to see what your team can do without Tatum. You want to get it. To me, it becomes a little bit of gamesmanship.
Preseason week 4, and you play the team in the regular season. You're not playing. You're not going to show them what you're about.
Exactly. And that, to me, I would not play him against Chicago, and I would play him limited minutes against Milwaukee and against Memphis. Just depends on where we are in the standings. If we need a win to lock up the number 2 seed, then I'd play him. If we are pretty much locked into 2, 3, or whatever, then I'm either going to not play him at all, or I will play him extremely limited minutes. But he, to me, is the key at this point when you talk about lineup decisions and rotations and things of that nature. I'm definitely not playing him against Chicago. Depending on where we are, I play him against Milwaukee, but I may not play him his usual 30-plus minutes. And Memphis, it just depends on where we are record-wise. If we've got a shot at the number 2 seed, then, I'll probably play him. If we don't and we're locked into 3 or 4, then there's no point in me playing him. And especially if we're the number 4 seed and we're playing a Chicago team that, oh, by the way, I sat him against, so they don't they're not going to really know exactly how we're going to do what we do, because their last chance of seeing him was way the hell back when they played earlier. There has to be some gamesmanship at this point if you're Ime Udoka on how you utilize Tatum and not utilize him.
What do you want to see, Josue?
Yeah,
go for it or rest.
It's an important balance, but I'm going to lean towards rest. Just because, look, if you're realistically going into this postseason with the mindset of we can make a deep playoff run, we can go. You're not quite sure how it's going to pan out, right? You don't know if it's going to be how many days in between series and how many off days you're going to necessarily have, and things could happen really fast. So it's really important that they make sure that he gets his rest in, that he's able to not make anything worse or keep his name off of the injury report, so to speak, right? Because obviously he's your most important player. He's still killing it right now. He's still on this incredible tear, and you don't want to do anything that's gonna somewhere in the middle of round 2 of a best of 7 series that's gonna have him miss a game or two. So I'm gonna say rest. But obviously, keep your eye on the standings and make sure you pick the right games. Depending on what reflects off that standing and where you stand. Going up against the Milwaukee Bucks.
Guys, Jalen is talking.
Bobby,
Jalen's talking right now. So,
all right,
if you want to jump in there and see,
let's go get him.
Let's go get him. Jalen
Bobby
is
Manning.
talking.
Jalen, did you get both shots? I was gonna say no. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Bobby.
Did you boost? Yeah, did you get the boost?
Did you boost, my man? A couple other things off of tonight's game or today's game I think we're talking about. Derek White last 3 or 4 games. I don't know the exact numbers, but the splits were something like through the first 17 games is 22% from 3. I think he's up to around 40 something over the last 5, which is certainly good. What's interesting about White is no matter, even when he's missing, it looks like an incredibly confident stroke.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting with him is he's not afraid to shoot it. But the thing is, he's going to be the same way we talked about Tice, that ball's swinging to him and he's going to have to shoot. And those have to go down, again, it's the time for, let's wait for it and he'll be okay is over. He's got to hit him. And it's nice to see them go down a little bit because he was definitely in his head. And you assumed he would at least regress to the mean. I mean, he's not a knockdown shooter. He's a 34% career shooter, 31 for this year. You want to see him at least shooting around that 35%, which makes it viable. It was so bad for so long that you were worried if he entered the playoffs on such an ice cold streak, he'd be reluctant. And he can't be because they're going to need him.
They are going to need him. And the one thing, and I talked to Derek about this when we were out west, he said the big thing for him has been that even though he knows he's struggling, I mean, it's obvious, but his teammates keep telling him to keep on shooting because it's just like, we need you to knock down shots. So we can't need you being hesitant, reluctant, unsure of whether or not you should shoot it. Let it fly, dude. Let it fly. And he's doing that. And he does. I mean, he's had double figures in 6 of the last 7 games. And if you get into the playoffs, to have a guy off your bench who you can pretty much take to the bank is going to get you 10 to 12 points, that's huge. Especially a guy who can get you 10 to 12 points, run your offense as a playmaker, good defender. All those things come into play when you're trying to move on to the next round. You need guys that you can plug and play into that lineup who can get it done like that. And Derek, again, his game is rounding into form at the right time if you're the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, he's adapted, right, Sherrod? I think that's what it is in a nutshell. He led that unit, that second unit in this game. They were damn near perfect. He was perfect, in terms of almost perfect, 6 for 7. But so was Grant Williams, was also 6 for 7. Peyton Pritchard started to heat up a little bit in that fourth quarter. Like, those are the 3 guys coming off your bench that you're gonna have to rely on and hope that you find consistency within 2 out of those 3 guys. And it seemed like today everyone sort of had it going. Even Pritchard started to get hot too. So that's exactly what the Celtics need right now. To have that sort of confidence from their second unit, and hopefully they can just build on that. And hopefully that's something that between now and the start of the postseason becomes like between those 3 guys, you're going to get a solid outing out of 2 of those, And I think Derek White has to be that guy. He has the experience. He has the way his game translates on both ends of the floor. I mean, he has a unique skill set if you think about it, and that's something that all the other guys in the second unit can't necessarily say. So he's really important for this playoff.
Yeah, but that bench got you 67 points tonight. Obviously, a good chunk of that was in mop-up time. But the fact that they're making shots,
15 threes off the bench.
Yeah.
I mean,
the
look,
fact that they're making shots even in garbage time is something you gotta love that. You gotta love that.
You know, find someone who loves something as much as Pritchard loves fourth quarter no pressure threes. Not to say he hasn't knocked him down at other stage in the game, but that dude turns into 91-point YMCA Pritchard in the fourth quarter when he gets to lead that friggin' brigade. When he's out there with the Hauser Neesmith brigade.
We got 9 minutes left. All right, let's go.
He's like,
let's go. I could go off.
Oh man, but like all of those guys, and look, I know it's a joke, and people are daring us to talk about him. I'll talk about Neesmith. Fine. Like, yes, I don't care what the circumstance is. Seeing him knock down a couple of shots.
Jalen update.
Huh?
Sorry, go ahead. We have a Jalen update. It looked like he went the no comment route. Looks like
he did.
But like Al Horford, he said he will be ready, but he wouldn't flat out answer the
I think we've got the right of it here. I think
it's from another report.
I think the reluctance to answer is for the reasons we discussed, but I also think it's not going to be an issue, so it's probably a non-issue at this point. So again, I don't think.
Right.
The controversy is really more the fact that they keep saying no comment as opposed to whether or not they'll play in Toronto. I think they're going to play in Toronto. Put 2 and 2 together, figure it out for yourselves. If they're not ready now, they will be before they get there. I think it's that simple.
Yeah. And that's something I think has been discussed beforehand too. Like, you don't have to reveal your status, but just say you'll be ready.
We've decided as a team we're gonna take care of whatever needs to be
Sherrod's gonna get to the bottom of this shit.
Sherrod's like, I'm gonna go find this out.
Let me find this fucking.
Let me get in there.
Right.
But I mean, the Neesmith thing again. I don't care when it's happening. Watching him knock down any shots at all is welcome. And you saw that first one. He sat there in the corner. If he missed the first one, then he takes the second and he aims it. He takes like an extra 3 seconds all alone in the corner, and it goes down and he stands there a little bit. So he's thinking about it. And he's like, and then the next 2, he stepped right into him. So he is such a mental, like, confidence-based shooter.
Right.
He needs that.
I was gonna say, I feel like he's thinking 2 steps ahead most of the time. So
if I miss this, am I going to take the next one? And what if I miss the next one? Then I'm not going to play, and I might not play for like 7 straight games, and I really want to make it. It's just there's not enough natural, stuff happening. And the thing though is I think we're just once again we've gone too deep into the season without him having a regular role to think that he's going to play anything but mop up time against the mop up or foul up, fouling or injury time in the playoffs. I think it's sadly another lost season for him. Because I just don't know that I don't know that you can count on it. I'm happy to see it, but I just think it's that. I mean, Sherrod, can you see any meaningful Neesmith minutes in the postseason?
No. None. Unless, knock on wood, someone gets hurt. Other than that, I just don't see it. He's had more than enough opportunities to solidify a spot for himself, and he hasn't. That doesn't mean he can't in the future, but right now, no. Because this team has too much talent and frankly, too many guys who are stepping up to where they can't wait.
Yeah.
They can't wait for it to sink in. They can't wait for him to get it. And it is what it is.
We did think it would be a byproduct of the trickle down of the injury to Rob would just be more minutes because, if you go double big early, that's just going to, eliminate someone from that second team rotation and may just open up other avenues. It just didn't happen for him again.
I mean, he's go ahead, Josue.
No, I was just going to say, like, the way Ime's constructed this team and the philosophy and everything, like, he had that space, right, to crack the rotation. And even after the trade, with so many guys out and trying to fill up that roster, you got another opportunity to sort of make an impression, see if you could crack that rotation and be one of the last guys in there. And it just he couldn't piece it together. There were stretches where he was able to find his shot. There were stretches where he was a bit lost on defense. There were other times where it seemed like out of control when he had the ball, when he put the ball on the floor. So he's still a work in progress. I'm not saying to write him off, But this season, unless it's one of those games where they're just really, they're in foul trouble and Ime is looking down the line of his bench, or they're down by 25 and he's just looking for someone to sort of help stop the bleeding. I think he will turn to Neesmith for other things, rebounding, defense, cutting the corners off of opposing teams. Like, that's something I think you may see him a little bit in the mix where there's 9-10 minutes in one game here or there. But cementing himself into the rotation, I think right now I don't think it's going to happen.
No. What's up, Bobby?
Hello.
Hi, good to see you.
What's up, Bobby?
I'm not just saying hi.
I'm just fixing my name. Sorry.
Okay.
Did Jalen show his Vax card or no?
No, we got the no comment.
He showed his Players Association card, though.
Yeah, pretty much a dodge. And I think we're still pretty much where you said we are, John. Like, I'd be stunned if anybody, Jalen or anyone else, decided to go Kyrie and sit out playoff games. Yeah, I'd be stunned. And he essentially said that, right? Like, he said, I'm eager to play wherever we play. The exact same thing Al said. And I've kind of felt the same way about both of those guys who have been the ones people have speculated might have some issues on that front. But I just don't see anyone on this team, especially where chemistry and connectivity and all this different stuff Ime's worked on this year. I highly doubt that issue would get in the way of anybody playing playoff games, especially with the bigger goal that everyone's trying to accomplish here. Rob being down, all those things. So I think that'll be determined once they figure out who they're playing. And fortunately, like you said, John, there's a long time after that gets set where they actually start playing those games. So we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see where we are. Guys, anything else on this game? We talked a little bit about White. I wanted to sneak in Neesmith because I thought it was fine.
10 shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff from
him.
Yeah, I mean, we were asking Bobby whether he has a role. I'll ask you this one, and everyone will be like, oh, shut up. I hate this guy. But Romeo Langford, would he have had playoff minutes? And the answer is no, because he's missed 11 straight games with a freaking hamstring injury.
Exactly, John. I'm glad you brought that up because
this guy.
I have been purposely saying absolutely nothing about Romeo because I'm looking at the injury report, and his name is on that damn thing as if he was still here in Boston.
Yeah.
As if like literally nothing.
I still look it up because I'm like, come on. I was like, come on, man, get back on the court. I'm like, just get in there.
I said this yesterday too, John. The pick they gave up now is 25th. Like that's beautiful. That's exactly where you would want that trade to go. I know people are still looking at Richardson's 3-point shooting and saying like, oh, that would have been great. Who knows if he needed to be in that deal? But Langford, no worry there. You got a rock-solid rotation player in White, who is starting to heat up now. He really, he's pushing 40-50% over the last 5 games there. Yeah, so
5 games,
yeah. It's 40-something over the last 5 after 22% of the first 17. Again, it doesn't matter. You don't need him to be 40% three-point shooter. You just need him to be the guy who he is, 35. And
he may have some comments on him pregame talking about he's got to be more physical. He's got to foul even if that's what it takes. And because he didn't see that from him in San Antonio, and he says that's how we play defense here.
Why is everyone asking how tall we are? People want to know how tall we are.
That's always a question.
Because our audience is weird. What do you mean?
Bobby and Sherrod are like 6'1". Is that right?
6'2".
No, Bobby's
6'2". I'm 6'1".
I'm 6 even, and Josue is no comment. Josue cannot comment.
What is this, a physical? What are we doing here?
Josue cannot as the president of the Garden Reporters Association. Josue is not allowed to comment on anything medical. It's a personal question, and we don't answer personal medical questions about our height.
We're here to talk about the NBA.
Private.
Right? We got a job to do here. All right. Damn it.
Yeah. Private. Great. This is a private issue. I will be ready.
One of these days we'll have a live broadcast. All right, you guys can come down and find out.
It'll be a bar graph. It'll be Bobby, Sherrod, Josue, and Bobby, Sherrod, me.
And Bobby's gonna pull up with his damn Tim's on because he likes to do that when he knows he's doing a report with me.
Yes.
He's
no comment.
let me put my Tim's on. Just we're gonna do this one standing. Is that cool?
I have worked with many reporters who've stood on boxes and sat on phone books. Okay,
Never have I ever. Never have I ever.
That's because we don't have any phone books anymore, Josue.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
Listen, what's a phone book?
Oh yeah, that's where do you find a phone book now?
Phone book.
The yellow pages, the white pages. Where do you find those?
That would be yellowpages.com.
Yeah.
Do we have a cornet dunk banner? The people are excited about that one.
No, they were.
God.
They just want you to talk
that
about it.
That would be you, Bobby. That would be you.
Bobby,
man,
you weren't 6'2" when I met you, man. I swear you're still growing, but all right.
It's the
that'll be
Tim.
good. But they haven't had the media game in years. I'd be excited for that one.
Yeah, hopefully that'd be nice to get that one
that was
back in there.
That was fun.
We've got 5. We can run a garden report 5.
That would be something.
Bobby,
Scal,
can you play at your height?
Ever.
Because I can play big if I have to, even though I was a guard.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up playing center.
You did. Oh,
Yeah.
so you were one of the tall kids early?
Yeah, for sure. I was
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah. Josue runs point. We'll stick Jimmy in the corner. If he knocks down some shots, great.
I feel good about this group. I really
Jimmy's
do.
coming off the bench. Jimmy's not starting. Yeah, he's coming off the
We'll
bench. He's got to
see.
earn minutes on this team.
Yeah.
Come on.
Facts, my dog.
Jimmy's got to earn him.
Hey, getting up and down the floor, that might be the key.
All right, I'll put it this way. Isaiah Thomas was like one of the few players that I was looking down to. All right. When I used to interview one-on-one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
In other words, he's not what he's listed as, or maybe he is.
How tall is Jimmy? Who's taller, Jimmy or Josue?
I think Josue
What the heck?
is.
What kind of question is that,
I
John?
think Josue is.
Yeah.
Is that too personal?
I hope he is.
No, I mean, like, it's not even
I hope
close.
you
Come
are.
on, man.
Are you considerably
Thank you.
taller?
Thank you for thank you, Sherrod. Damn.
I think you got him by at least a couple inches. At least a couple inches.
You.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot. I forgot. I haven't seen the guy in person in like a year or so.
All those little guys are like the same. They start running together after a while, height-wise.
Guys, we got a playoff team, a potential championship, a team that could make a deep run, and this is what we're doing. All right, cool.
This is what we're doing. Well, we're near the end. Once we hit the hour mark, it's friggin'
I know.
It's pickles and phone books at this point. So
I'm just laughing because I feel like they didn't appreciate our 90s music talk from the last show. But no, they want to talk about this.
That's because
By the way,
the music was from like the 2010s.
Josue can
I
dribble.
know.
Anyone asking? Josue has game. Josue's got some
Yeah.
shimmy. He's got some shake. He can dribble.
Like a ball. Yeah, we used to play pickup. Whoa, if someone left the ball on the court,
Yeah,
would
we'd play after.
before shooting our reports.
We've been waiting for that. In fact, we
Back
have,
in the day.
looks like we do have the court today, so we'll have video down there.
All right, go play.
No,
Go.
we won't.
Yeah.
We're sitting down, Bobby, on this one.
So we got a little break. We got Wednesday, Thursday. Bobby's heading out, just so you guys know, for the Wednesday and Thursday game. For against Chicago and Milwaukee. Sherrod is heading out on Thursday.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll be there for Milwaukee, and then I'll be finishing out in Memphis.
Closing
All right,
the road
so we
trip
have every game.
out in Memphis. So we are covered. The
Could be a
Guard
meaningful
Report
game.
is out there. Did want to mention a Full Court Press Bulletin. That's Sherrod's situation there, fullcourtpress.bulletin.com, where you can get Sherrod Blakely's written material. Sherrod, anything out there right now you want to talk about or anything coming up?
Oh, yeah, I just posted something a couple hours ago just about this kid, Caleb Love, that's kind of turning heads in the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
The connection between him and Jason Tatum is pretty interesting. I actually had a chance to spend some time with Caleb Love before he committed to UNC because I was out in St. Louis working on a piece on Jason Tatum. And both of those guys have stepped their game up this year, and there's a common denominator, and it's not just Jason Tatum's dad, who was Caleb's coach. There's more to it than that. So check it out, fullcourtpress.bulletin.com. It's up there now.
What a game last night. I love that UNC
Check
team.
that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Also,
Caleb Love.
Bobby Manning's Dome Theory podcast. Subscribe. You can catch it on YouTube as well. Sherrod Blakely with Causeway Street, and of course the Cedric Maxwell podcast.
No, Josue Pavon, man.
What I call you?
You said Sherrod.
Josue Pavon. Josue and
Yeah.
Jose.
Who said that?
No one. It's just me.
I either get Josue or Joe. It's never
Joe.
never. Well, sometimes Josue. Sometimes.
Yeah, Josue.
People think it's a typo. People sometimes think
we
it's a typo.
I know. It's annoying.
What do you got?
We got a special episode, guys. Just dropped. The YouTube, the video dropped yesterday, but anyways, Norm Nixon joins Max and I.
Norm,
two-time Lakers champ. If any of you guys are watching the Winning Time HBO, the Lakers show, his son actually plays him, and he's the bitter point guard, starting point guard, who's afraid that the hotshot rookie Magic Johnson's gonna take his spot.
Who's
we
better?
Had a really good time, man, talking to Norm, man. He was a really, really funny guy. You guys check it out. It's up now. Episodes already gone live.
It's up, so subscribe to the audio, but you can also watch the video.
Yes.
CLNS Media's YouTube and subscribe over there. Quick question:
right on the channel. Matter of fact, watch it right after this.
Who's better, Norm Nixon's kid is Norm Nixon, or Ice Cube's kid is Ice Cube?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Because Ice Cube's kid as Ice Cube was
crushed
freaking phenomenal.
He crushed it.
That was a great movie.
I saw him in another movie.
So
and I felt like I was
good.
watching Ice Cube again. Yeah,
exactly.
really
I didn't know it was his kid, so at first I was like, "This guy nailed it! Oh my god!" Just the mannerism and everything, and but he was
well.
So
you know
good.
what? To his credit, though, he probably had some great research from his dad. But Norm was like, "Look, man, you got to figure this one out on your own." I'm like, "Damn, no, I don't want to spoil the episode, but guys, check it out." He talks about the conversation he had with his son, and his son has been active for a while, so he's been in the game. But it's gotta be pretty cool to put the TV on and see your son playing you back in the 80s.
It's a great episode. It's a great episode. Watch it. It's out there right now. It's really fun. Max obviously talking to guys, he used to play with back in the day and stuff like that. It's got a great vibe, Yeah.
He's like, I guess Josue's here too, but no one, what's up, man? What's going on? It's funny. Max had a blast.
Yeah.
Muggsy Joe's. That's a funny comment.
That is good. So that's all good stuff. And join our clnsmedia.com/Discord. Go to our Discord server, clnsmedia.com/Discord. Head over there. We keep the conversation going. It's basically going all day and all night. We're up to around close to 1,000 guys. We'd like to get there. And so definitely check that out. And we've promised this a bit, but we will start doing some more interactive stuff where we can hear directly from you guys. If you're tired of just saying John sucks in the chat, you can do it you can do it in person.
Yeah. And he'll get it like a text message, so you can really piss him off.
It's great. But lots of good stuff here at CLNS as we roll into the playoffs. We're loaded with terrific basketball content over on our website and on our YouTube channel. So check that out over there. Subscribe to everything. Follow all of these guys on Twitter for updates as they cover the team intensely and, comprehensively on the road throughout the rest of the regular season, on the playoffs. We're back on Wednesday. Bobby, what do you think? Maybe some spaces on Tuesday or something like that? It's a long gap.
Yep, I'll be in Chicago, so maybe there'll be a practice or something.
We may drop in and do a spaces. Follow us.
You better get some deep dish pizza out there, man.
Yeah. CLNS deep dish is crap. Anyway,
we'll say.
Well, apparently, if you get it from Chicago, it's supposed to be out of this world. I don't know. I can't attest to it.
Pass.
I can't attest to it.
Pass.
What is it? Too much dough? Is that what it is?
It tastes like friggin' like this oily, thick biscuit. It just isn't. It's a different food concept. I won't even group it with.
It's
pizza.
not my favorite pizza. I'll have it, but it's not my favorite pizza.
I'll have it because I'm there and I have to. But it's
I've never had it in Chicago.
I'll say
I do that next time.
Pass.
Bobby's not going to do that at all. Yeah. But okay, nope. Bobby.
Yeah.
He's got no interest in it.
Yeah, it's gross. Anyway, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you guys later on this week. Take care.